Hey, what's up, YouTube, man? It's your boy, Action Jackson. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the first day of OTAs. We're going to be talking about interviews that were happening between Dak Prescott, George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, Brian Schottenheimer. We're going to be talking about a couple of notes that guys like Tommy Yarish, that works for the Star, the Telegram, and that worked with the Dallas Cowboys, Nick Harris, John Machota. Shout out and credit to all those guys, all the content I'm going to be distributing today, and some of my talking points for OTA. So before we hop into the video, I'd appreciate if you guys would like the video, subscribe if you're new, comment, and share my video with anyone who you think will enjoy my content. John Machota's tweet for this one. We're going to be introducing head coach Brian Schottenheimer. And the first question, a lot of people are talking about, most of the skill positions is what people are going to be talking about, because in OTAs, there's not a whole lot of physicality that's going on. First of all, we're going to talk about our QB1, whether you like him or not, in Dak Prescott. He is moving well. He's looking great. He's slimmed down a lot. He looked like he's around the 220 range. He's looked very built, very slim, which we need him to be. We need Dak Prescott to move around. We don't have a surefire thing of what our offensive line is going to look like. We have thoughts, we have concerns, some concerns, but we felt like overall, with offensive coordinator Clayton Adams and new offensive line coach Connor Riley coming from K-State, we feel that our offensive line is going to be a lot better. We're going to have a lot better schemes than we did just our last administration, and Mike Solari and Brown, Joe Philbin, what we had in 2022. We feel like we're going to have a lot better scheme than what we had before. But we need Dak Prescott to move around. We don't need Dak Prescott to be like what he used to be from 2016 to 2019 when he would use his legs. He would average at least like six rushing touchdowns, and we would utilize his legs in the red zone. We are no longer using Dak Prescott in that capacity, but we no longer need Dak Prescott to do that. It'll be great. It'll be a plus if he can bring that back, but we just know the older you get in your career, the older you are, that athleticism slowly fades away. That's why they talk about technique and footwork and everything. Beating people with your mind is so important once you play in this league and you play in the various amount of leagues across the league, NHL, MLB, everything like that, right? So I'm glad that Dak Prescott has slimmed down. I always thought he was a fit quarterback anyway. He was never out of shape. We never have to worry about Dak Prescott being in shape or not, like how we had to worry about with our other quarterback before in the past. But I think Dak Prescott is going to be great this year. He normally has a really good year coming off of a major injury. And then also Dak Prescott he's cleared to practice, but he's not cleared yet to do any physical type of activities, if that's what some of you guys are wondering. One of the quotes from today's practice about Coach Brian Schottenheimer on George Pickens, that's going to be the major headline, because that was one of the biggest moves that the Dallas Cowboys have made in recent memory. And the last time we made a big move was for trading our first round pick in 2018 in the month of October to go get Amari Cooper, right? So when we're on regards about George Pickens, Brian Schottenheimer had this to say: my time with him has been incredible. We were all on the board with adding him. I see a guy that is maturing. He's obviously a tremendous athlete. Said he's been dialing in the meeting room, taking purposeful notes and things like that. Has been added on about, again, speaking to the character of George Pickens, because George Pickens has gotten a bad rap since he was in Pittsburgh. But if you look at the situation he was dealing with and the type of where he came from in Georgia, from winning a national championship, having Stinson Bennett throwing him the football, and then I forgot there was another quarterback though. I think Jake Fromm, or one of the Georgia quarterbacks before was Stinson Bennett. But come from a winning organization like that, getting the ball, and then you go over to Pittsburgh, and you have a circus at quarterback with Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. You had a bevy of quarterbacks that are not league ready, or that are not great like how they used to be, like Russell Wilson. But it is what it is, and things of that nature. So shout out to Nick Harris. He has some notes regarding today's notes about practice. And number one thing was George Pickens. George Pickens hauled in a pair of receptions on a quick slant and a comeback along the left sideline. DB Wanye Thomas played at safety and in the slot, so that's utilizing Wanye's versatility. I feel like Wanye and Marquise Bell are going to be a rotation at strong safety. The guys that were working on working with Brett Brown and the rehab group on the side was, they saw DeMarvin Overshown, Sam Williams, Donovan Wilson was not practicing today. And, I think a guy like Donovan Wilson, if he's not practicing a whole lot, it's going to be tough because if Wanye's coming out here doing his job, and he's better in coverage, in my opinion, and they have Marquise Bell, I do believe that, Wanye and Marquise Bell, they're hunting for that job. And I don't think that Donovan Wilson is going to make the team. In my personal opinion, if there's a not so hot take or was one of my predictions on the roster who can get cut before the start of training camp, I do think it can be Donovan Wilson just because he has a little bit of money that the Dallas Cowboys can use. The linebacking group today was flying around. Shamar James and Buddy Johnson caught interceptions. Solid coverage from the others. Jake Ferguson looked like he had some good weight as well. Tight end Beverin Spanford is looking to take that second-year jump. He was unstoppable today, according to Nick Harris, had multiple receptions, including one where he separated downfield. Wide receiver Covante Turpin took some quick routes and made them into big gains. Again, I believe Covante Turpin is one of our most explosive wide receivers on our team. I feel like if we utilize him in a change of pace type of wide receiver or change of pace type of weapon, where we need that little burst in the offensive game plan or just a big explosive play, I believe we can turn to Turpin. I believe that he's one of those players that can catch a bubble screen, a flat route. We'll give him a motion touch pass. I feel like that's the dude that can get you 10 to 14 yards quick and easy, right, if everything's blocked up correctly. Also adding what Nick Harris added to the notes, I felt like every time I looked up, wide receiver Jalen Cropper was making a reception. Again, these wide receivers are hungry. They know that when George Pickens got in here, that your name and your days are numbered, really, because now we only care about two wide receivers in this room now with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. They traded a fourth for Jonathan Mingo, Jalen Tolbert. Those guys are going to be fighting for it. We know Covante Turpin's going to get a spot because of him getting money and plus what he's been to this team and what he means to the team. He's been such a bigger weapon and a big play guy for us. We're going to keep him around. So guys like Jalen Marino Cropper, Tolbert, Brooks, a lot of those guys. I think Jalen Tolbert's going to get one more chance, one more year. But everybody else, Jalen Brooks, Jalen Marino Cropper, if you were the guys that were, dangling around on the practice squad or trying to get in on the back end of the roster, you have to do something. Trayshawn Holden, a lot of Cowboy fans love that UDFA signing from Oregon, right? So there's going to be a lot of competition at the wide receiver spot, and I'm very excited to see who gets that wide receiver 6 spot if we decide to carry 6 wide receivers. Love the day from cornerback Kyer Elam on the outside. Had a couple of PBUs and he looked very confident. And then last but not least, to end out Nick Harris notes, running backs were rotated quite a bit. Nothing really to take away from that group yet. I think we're going to get more gauge on that group once we see training camp reps. So once we see preseason, how we're utilizing the running backs, we're going to see what that room is really made of. And then shout out to Tommy Yarish. Some of the notes that I like to get from him was number one is first round pick Tyler Booker took first team reps at right guard, and I feel like that should be that should be we should be doing that is basically what I'm trying to say. None of this earn the start crap. You drafted him in the first round. You drafted him for a reason. You want him to replace your future Hall of Fame right guard. And Zach Martin, not saying he's going to play up to that level, and I'm not saying that, but Tyler Booker has to come in and be the best Tyler Booker that he can be, and he talked about that already in his post-draft presser. So he's going to be a great player. I really like what we're going to do. I didn't like how we did that last year. We knew we were getting a better center and a better player in Cooper Beebe, and then Tyler Guyton was going to play by default because we didn't re-sign Tyron Smith. Chuma Edoga was facing an injury in camp, and we knew how to put Tyler Guyton, basically put 2 rookies in the fire of the season, right? So I didn't like how last year Vosh Lombardi, Brian Barnes, they talked about it when they were at training camp last year, how they were on the opposite end of the field by themselves, working with the threes and the practice squad guys and working reps so they can get all the reps needed. I think that was BS last year, especially since we knew that you guys drafted them to start them. So it didn't make any sense for them to really do that as well. So, I'm really glad that Tyler Booker is playing right guard, having first team reps as he should. Again, Wanya Thomas took first team reps at safety with Donovan Wilson in the rehab group. Shamar James read Joe Milton perfectly for an interception, and Kyer Elam had a solid day at corner with a couple of PBUs. But yeah, so that really concludes the notes that happened today. when we're talking about when we're interviewing some of the players like John Machota was. I didn't, but John Machota, some of the guys that were interviewing some of the players like Dak, CD, one quote from George Pickens. Shout out to John Machota for the quote. New Cowboys wide receiver George Pickens on his first interaction with Jerry Jones. George Pickens has stated, super excited. It was like when you get a present on Christmas. He was just super happy. Pickens said nothing is finalized with his jersey number, so he might not be wearing number 13 during the season. I do think he's going to wear number 14. He's going to have to pay a pretty penny to veteran Marquise Bell, who wears number 14. I wouldn't really care if he wears number 13, honestly, in my opinion, with George Pickens. But I want George Pickens to wear 14. I want him to wear another number than 13. He can wear whatever he wants. If he makes big plays, he can wear 13. He can wear 80. I don't care what number he really wears. I just want him to wear 14 because that's what we saw him in Pittsburgh. And for me, he's a better wide receiver than what Michael Gallup was. So why wear the same number that Michael Gallup wore and just wear your own number and make your own name is my type of thing. Again, Michael Gallup isn't the type of player like, oh, you can't wear 13 like how we do 12 for Roger Staubach and stuff like that. So he can wear whatever number he wants, but it's just I like to see him in number 14 than 13 in my opinion. I just think it looks better on him. Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, shout out to John Machota as well for the quote, was asked about having OTAs, minicamp and training camp this offseason because last year he didn't because of a contract dispute. But he did say the last time that he did have OTA and minicamp was 2023, and in 2023 that was his All-Pro year, 135 catches, 1,749 yards receiving, and 12 touchdowns. Hell of a year. I had him in fantasy. I had him, had Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb in fantasy. Won me some nice money on that league. But yeah, man, I think CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott help you with George Pickens. It opens up so much for this team. It's gonna be very exciting watching this offense. If everything sticks to plan and we're really say the type of team that we're going to be, more condensed formations, more shifts and meaningful motions, I think we're going to be a damn good offense in my opinion. And then CeeDee Lamb just talking about George Pickens and what he brings to the table, saying that he brings everything, his demeanor, deep threat ability, able to block, the energy that he brings to the game. We complement each other very well. He hasn't stopped smiling since he got here. I think that is why, because he finally got a quarterback that's going to get him the ball in his contract year, and he knows who he knows who his agent is. So he knows he's going to get a bag, and he knows that he's going to play really well. And he's such a passionate person anyway. Money isn't really a problem for him. But in terms of like, hey, I'm going to get paid. I'm finally playing with a quarterback that's going to get it done. And I'm playing on a very talented team on both sides of the ball. It's going to be very exciting this year. And I believe that's what George Pickens knows and what he feels. And I'm very excited to see what the season is going to bring. I don't know what it's going to be. Everyone's going to say, it's going to be the same old. But that's why you play the game. Injuries happen. We can be healthy at the right time. We get the right matchups. Who knows? We still have to make some moves. We still have to be a better football team. I don't think we can get to the destination in which we want to be with the current way in which the D-tackle room looks like. I would love to add another veteran at the cornerback position. I want to add another running back that's better than what we already have in the room. And, if we can add a tight end, I wouldn't be upset at that as well. But again, OTAs, everything seemed great. Everything seemed peachy and perfect, and I think that's what it's going to look like in OTAs. But I want to know what this team looks like in the season, that tough November stretch. I want to know what this team looks like in the midst of adversity, and we're going to find out very soon, man. The fall is going to be here before we know it. So that's about it for the video. Hope you guys have a nice day. Stay safe, stay blessed. Bye.